that one, just hold it. Just go up on it. It'll speed up, so it goes up.
The payload on the drone is what gathers that imagery. Okay, drone can fly, but if you don't have the right camera, then that data is of no use.
Drones capture beautiful images, but the work Elizabeth City State University's drone technology program is doing in Currituck Sound is about more than just pretty pictures.
Now we got a chance, an opportunity to actually work on a conservation project.
Kuldeep Rawat is flying the drone program into new territory.
Well, I got interested personally into drones because my background is in engineering.
Rawat builds drones, pilots drones, designs the software and hardware payloads that drones carry.
This is what we call an experimental quadcopter.
That cage allows an experimental quadcopter to be safely tested and flown in the lab before taking it out in the field.
You can see it has these 4 propellers here, and then the heart of this quadcopter is this high processing computer that can, process the data coming out of the sensors that you put in here, and it can also send the signal out to these speed controllers to actually control the speed of these motors.
Different models of drones and different payloads are adapted to fit the needs of each project.
These are 400 different applications where you could actually use a drone.
Now the drone team is partnering with the Audubon Society to survey Pine Island in Currituck Sound. The society has a refuge there.
Pine Island Sanctuary is a 2,600-acre sanctuary that we manage and protect. And it's located in the wildest corner of the northern Outer Banks. And it also happens to be a globally important bird area. Like I said, the Sound is one of the most important places in the entire hemisphere for birds, and that includes 96 species that Audubon has identified as being climate threatened.
So one of the projects that we are doing in the Pine Island is to look at the changes in the shorelines. And then we can compare that data with satellite imagery maybe 30 years back. And we can make that comparison.
Drones will also be used to map the marsh vegetation around the Sound.
What kind of vegetation is there? And so we will be using some multispectral and hyperspectral sensing technology put on the drone to actually figure out what kind of vegetation is on Pine Island. Every vegetation is going to absorb and reflect light differently. And based on what is absorbed and how it is reflected, I can measure that. That sensor would measure that and tell me why this vegetation is different from the other vegetation. And so once we get all that imagery, we will have to then bring that imagery to the lab here and then use sophisticated software and actually stitch that all that imagery together, and then basically be able to analyze it and tell, okay, what kind of vegetation is up there in Pine Island.
They're doing this in a big, huge area with the bigger drone, so they can see a big map, and then when they go down and use a smaller drones, they can really see up close on what's going on.
And based on the size of the area we want to cover, I'll program that parameter in. It will automatically calculate how far to space my tracking so it can cover that amount of area, plus get the correct overlap on the photo images so it can stitch all these pictures together and give me the data that I need. It's back and forth repeatedly where I'll have a front and back overlap for each image, and on the next track or leg, there has to be a side-to-side overlap for each image. What the processing software does is it'll look at identical pixels from multiple pictures. From that, it can tie them together in what we call a stitching, an orthomosaic.
Currituck Sound is about 3 miles wide and roughly 42 miles long. It stretches from Kitty Hawk at the sound end to Back Bay and the Virginia border at the north end. It's large, but also very shallow. Most of the Sound is only 1 to 3 feet deep. In addition, Currituck Sound is not a tidal estuary. There are no lunar tides, like the high tides and low tides found at the coast. Wind tides rule in Currituck Sound. I would think that would ease the erosion concerns. It doesn't sound like that's the case.
Those tide events, I guess you really would refer to them more as water level events. So when you have a wind coming from the north, what happens is the water gets all blown out of the Sound, and then when you have winds blowing from the south, obviously water is blown up into the Sound, so you have those higher water levels. And that change in water level, which happens actually fairly rapidly often in the Sound, actually has led to increased erosion of the marshes. And so part of what this project will allow us to do is take a closer look at what the current state of those marshes is and then compare that to past imagery that we have and get an understanding of, okay, what is the actual change that we're experiencing and how can we address some of that?
So when this opportunity with Audubon came, and they were like, wow, this will be really great to use drones in conservation projects. So this gives me opportunity to actually go out and actually apply it to an application that, is for benefit to the society.
Thanks y'all for watching this video, and if you want more where that came from, check out our channel, Sci and C. Stick around.